Who would imagine that Robin Gibb kept a shocking secret from his fans and the rest of the world for decades, a secret that finally put all the puzzle pieces together? It wasn't until the age of 62 that he finally revealed what everyone had been. Suspecting Robin Gibb, one of the voices behind the legendary band Bee Gees, was known for his amazing vocals and mysterious aura, but what was hiding under that facade? Let's jump in and find out. The Bee Gees' very humble beginnings started with the Gibb brothers, a trio of talented boys who had a strong connection with music harmony and performing when Robin was born. Along with his twin brother Maurice in December of 1949, they would later form a band with their eldest brother Barry. It wasn't until the 50s that the boys were hooked into music, borrowing their older sister Leslie's records. They listened to Elvis Presley, Tommy Steele, the Everly Brothers, and other legends. They made fake guitars out of boxes and pretended to perform in 1956. The brothers made their first public appearance at the GMA, a movie theater a few blocks away. All the kids were allowed to pantomime songs, so they brought their sisters' records with them. They practiced with some neighborhood kids named Paul, Frost, and Kenny Ricks, and they called themselves the Rattlesnakes. As they were about to perform, the sound tech dropped and smashed Leslie's record. How unlucky for the brothers. But the brothers Gibb weren't the type to back down from a little challenge. Thankfully, Barry had a real guitar with him, so they performed while he strummed his guitar. The next thing they knew, all the kids loved it. From that point, the brothers became eager to pursue singing and to be discovered. By May 1958, the Rattlesnakes had called it quits after Paul Frost and Kenny Horks left the band. But the Gibb brothers weren't about to stop. They decided to regroup and formed a new band called Wee Johnny Hayes and the Blue Cats, with Barry taking on the stage named Johnny Hayes. August 1958 marked the start of a whole new adventure for the family. They packed up and left England for a fresh start in Australia. The whole family, including their older sister Leslie and younger brother Andy, ended up settling in the coastal town of Redcliffe in Queensland, just northeast of Brisbane, to continue pursuing music. The brothers frequented Redcliffe Speedway in 1959. There they performed between races. This ended up catching Bill Good's attention. One of the racing drivers, he liked them so much he contacted DJ Bill Gates, who also said the kids stood out for their natural harmonies. Gates then recorded their songs and played them on the radio. It was Gates's idea to use the name BGS, which was a common initial name among Barry Gibb, Bill Good, and himself, Bill Gates. This later became Bee Gees, which meant the brothers Gibb. Their dad, Hugh, ended up becoming their manager prior to their success. Hugh made ends meet with his photography business. As a manager, he decided to dedicate his career to his sons. At this point, they were already making a name for themselves, appearing on Australian TV shows like Anything Goes and Brisbane Tonight. Not just that, Robin and his brothers also performed at theaters, nightclubs, and bars. Even as kids, their dad taught them to sing Mills Brothers songs while their mom Barbara picked outfits for them. Despite this, they were far from successful. The brothers ended up meeting Nat Kipner, an American songwriter and producer who knew the music scene pretty well. He had just taken on the role of A&R manager at Spin Records, a brand new independent label. Kipner saw something special in the Bee Gees and believed in their talent, excited to help them make it big. He became their manager and helped shift them from Festival to Spin Records. This change was a big deal for them while they still worked with Festival Records for distribution in Australia. Spin Records gave the Bee Gees a fresh start through Kipner. They got in touch with Ozzy Byrne, a talented engineer who was just as confident in the brothers' abilities. Byrne welcomed them into his cozy, custom-built studio at St. Clair Studios in Hurstville, Sydney, where they kicked off their recording sessions. Even though the studio wasn't super fancy, it gave the Bee Gees the chance to play around and really shape their sound. From this point on, they started gaining some popularity. They topped the charts at number 35 and their first Australian hit, and Specs, was recorded. They were going through a pretty steady pace. In February 1967. Something big happened. The Bee Gees tried out for Robert Stigwood, a well-known figure in the music industry who had a knack for spotting talent. The audition went really well, and Stigwood was so impressed that he signed the Bee Gees to a 5-year deal. This meant their music would be released through Poor Records in the UK and Atco Records in the US, which set them up for international success. Before long, people started comparing them to the Beatles, which brought a mix of excitement and pressure as they stepped into this new phase of their careers. With solid backing behind them, the Bee Gees were ready to hit the big time. To beef up their group, they brought on board Colin Peterson and Vince Maloney, giving them more room to explore their sound. Their next single, In Britain, New York, Mining Disaster 1941, stirred up quite a buzz. Radio stations received copies with no labels. just the song title sparking. Rumors that it might be a new Beatles release, the mystery around the track, really hooked listeners, and New York mining disaster 1941 quickly climbed the charts, hitting the top 20 in both the UK and the US. This was an exciting milestone for the Bee Gees, who were eager for that kind of recognition. Finally, they were being noticed on the international stage, catching the eye of fans and critics alike. With that momentum, the Bee Gees' journey continued, full of ups and downs, critical acclaim, and a lot of pressure. While they worked hard to cement their place in the music scene, the band faced some internal struggles and creative clashes. In 1968, just when their popularity was peaking, they had a big 7-week tour lined up in the US. But right before it kicked off, Robin Gibb collapsed and had to go to the hospital. He was diagnosed with nervous exhaustion from all the stress he'd been under. This threw the Bee Gees into a tough spot, forcing them to make some hard decisions about their lineup and future. Even when Robin was out of the picture, Barry and Maurice kept making music, but it just didn't feel the same without his voice. As time went on, things got pretty tense, and they had some creative clashes. The arguments peaked over the single One of May, where Robin wanted Lamplight to be the main track, instead feeling a bit sidelined. Robin decided to leave the Bee Gees in 1969 to focus on his solo career. Barry and Maurice tried to carry on without him, but they could really feel that he was missing their first show without Robin at the talk of the town. In London was a mix of happiness and sadness while they pushed on with recording the album Cucumber Castle. Robin's absence was hard to ignore. Meanwhile, Robin had success with his solo hit Saved by the Bell, which sparked talk about what would happen with the BS as Robin's solo career took off. It became tricky for Barry and Maurice to keep the duo going strong. They started exploring individual projects, but hit some bumps along the way. Once super close, the brothers were now going their separate ways, leaving fans wondering if the Bee Gees would ever reunite. By the mid-1970s, they began to mend their rocky relationship. While on vacation in Spain, Barry found himself reflecting on everything that had happened. Maurice reached out to Robin to share his apologies about their earlier arguments, and that simple gesture helped bring the Bee Gees back together, ready to make music as a trio again. Their reunion turned out to be a success. In 1971, they dropped their 9th album, Trafalgar, which included the hit single, How Can You Mend a Broken Heart? This track helped them make a comeback, getting back into the UK top 10 after going through some rough times, both personally and professionally, during the 70s. The Bee Gees took a surprising turn in their music by jumping on the disco bandwagon, especially with Barry's amazing falsetto songs like You Should Be Dancing. Really marked a key moment for them, and being part of the Saturday Night Fever soundtrack cemented their place in music history. As the 70s wrapped up and disco faded a bit, the Bee Gees' tunes still found a way to connect with fans. They truly became icons in the music scene, leaving a lasting impact that went beyond their era. By the end of 1979, the disco scene was starting to fade away, and that came with some pretty big struggles for the Bee Gees. There was a quick backlash against disco music, and both fans and critics began to lose interest in the genre that used to be all the rage. Since the Bees were so tied to disco, they found it tough to navigate this shift, facing rejection from radio stations and audiences who were turning their backs on the disco vibe. On top of that, they dealt with some legal troubles when a musician accused them of stealing bits from their hit How Deep Is Your Love. At first, the court sided with the accuser, saying the Bee Gees didn't provide enough expert proof to back up their defense, but a few months later, that decision was overturned and they got cleared of all the accusations, even though the whole ordeal took a toll on them emotionally. Even with the tough times they faced, the Bee Gees really held on to their love for performing and their special connection with fans. At one of their shows, they honored their late brother Andy Gibb by adding his voice to their song, Our Love Don't Throw It All Away. It was a truly moving tribute that reminded everyone of Andy's spirit and the brothers' bond, leaving the crowd feeling deeply touched. This emotional moment sparked a realization for the Bee Gees about the incredible magic they had with their fans. Motivated, Barry, Robin, and Maurice kicked off a worldwide tour,